Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome back. If you've already been here, my name is Carly Blankenship and this is Secular Asylum. Secular Asylum. Kind of like Ghost Adventures where it's like,
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Everybody, I am here today with Kelsey Sargent. She is a fellow medium in my local troop. And Kelsey, would you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
I feel like I'm an intermediate medium. I'm still learning quite a bit. I recently had kids, so I've kind of put the mediumship a little bit on the back burner. But I can't wait to learn a little bit more now that I've got some more time. Um, I do more of like spiritual readings, spiritual guide readings. And I also do a lot of like death readings. So family, friends, people that have passed. They're very loud. And so I like to, here you go, here's all your messages. And I think it's a good way to have a good
Mhm.
conversation and help people through some of their pain or some of the grief that they're going through as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, I can't tell you the amount of people that come and visit me during bath time and they're just like, hello, I need to go. And
Oh,
they come in as like a shadowy kind of figure and then they
yes.
go into like this, like where they come closer to me and they're more clear.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm just like, okay, go on, get out of here. Just open up a quick portal for them. I'm like anybody else because it's about to close in three, two, and somebody's like,
You guys need to get
wait.
out. This is
Well, I
my
don't
me
know.
time. I'm just kidding.
Right. I mean, it's the only time that I really make for them, so I
Hmm.
guess it makes sense, but I don't know. Anyway, so I have a question. How did you come to find out that you were a medium? Like, what was kind of like the starting awakening tingles that you got?
Well, so as a kid, I've had a lot of experiences. That now as an adult and being in this mediumship with Healing Hands Holistic, I didn't realize that I was like, I was a medium at that point, especially as a kid. I just, that's just who I was, you know? I think there was a lot of times, it sounds so crazy, but there's a lot of times where I would talk to spirits in the bathroom. I don't know why the bathroom is the place that we just like communicate. Now
It's
I
a
take
trend.
showers and baths and it's like a thing. So, but
Hmm.
I did that a lot as a kid. I know one time a babysitter caught me like talking to myself in the bathroom. She's like, "Are you talking to yourself?" Now that I look back on it, I was not talking to myself. I was talking to spirits.
That's
So,
disgusting, and let me tell you why. Because ever since I was a little kid, you close your eyes and you always feel somebody kind of standing in front of you. And
yes,
now I'm having that core memory, and I'm like, but it's real.
it is. And it's so nice to like have a community that understands like some of the things that
Yes.
you're feeling or that you've gone through. And you're just like, so I'm not crazy.
Mhm.
Like, okay, that makes sense now. But I've had a lot of experiences over the years, especially I think the big opening for me was probably when my sister-in-law passed away. And that was a couple years ago. I think that was like the moment that I was like, oh my gosh, like so a lot of crazy things were happening at that point, which I'll kind of go into maybe a little bit later. But at that point, I was like, what do I do with all this? Like, my gifts are opening. I don't know what to do. This is scary. Like, all
Mhm.
these things. And somebody was like, well, I knew a perfect person for you to go to. And it was Justin Healing Hands.
Mhm.
So I went to him and like, we had all these conversations. And he's like, hey, I think you'd be great for our team because you have all these gifts. Like, you're really powerful. You just don't know what to do with it. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Thanks. So that's kind of where
Mhm.
it lifted off from there.
Yeah, it was very similar for me. I tried to do Reiki on myself and then ended up pulling all of my energy in my back, and I was like, no negative. And I was just like,
I don't know
man,
what I'm
this is
doing.
weird. Why do I feel like this? And I was like trying to stretch one day, and I was like, yeah, this isn't right. Like, and so I like went through and like posted on Facebook. I was like, hey, how do I fix this? And my aunt, like, of all people, was like, hey, go to this guy. He can help you. And I got there and I was like, dang, what's up, Hottie McFotty? And then he was like batting for the same team. So
Like, dang it.
no, it was fine. I was with somebody at the time and I was like, oh,
Oh,
good Lord, temptation. Ah.
yes. Yes. Justin is a very nice looking man.
Very easy on the eyes.
Mhm. He's
But
going to be blushing because
okay,
I know Cyrus is telling him all the secrets right now.
good, good. He deserves all the compliments. So, this season we are going to be using a unique method of questioning here on Secular Asylum, and I am going through and using the allegory of the cave to ask Kelsey questions today. And um, basically, if you don't know what the allegory of the cave is, I'll have like a link somewhere if you're watching this on YouTube. But basically, there is a group of people who have been kept in a cave the entirety of their lives. They know nothing else except for the wall and the shadows that are being cast in front of them. This is their entire reality. They have never known anything else. They never want to know anything else because that they are content because they have no idea that there is anything else. Well, one day one of them escapes and he goes out into the world and is like blinded by this giant bright thing that's in the sky, and basically he is like faced with the fact that there is an entire world outside of the shadow wall. you know um and tries to go back and tell his family and friends that like, hey, there is an entire world out there, but he's like also disoriented, so he's like trying to adjust to like the darkness again, and is kind of going into like a little bit of a hysteria kind of thing with explaining. So they're like, oh my gosh, like Kelsey's crazy, don't go out there kind of
Yep.
thing. And which like totally relate, same. But my aim here and my goal is to find out what Kelsey's cave is, and other questions that will unravel as we go. And so I would like to gain perspective on Kelsey and understand what she is passionate about. So Kelsey, what do you consider to be your cave? Is there multiple?
I think my biggest one is this idea of, oh, I have such a hard time. Like, I want to be politically correct, but I have such a hard time with saying it. But I guess it's this idea of going to church and having all of these like feelings of like you have to do things a certain way with this religion and all the things, right? Because as a kid, I was not really raised in church growing up because I grew up in Albuquerque. We went like once a year to this Catholic church that my sister's grandmother made us go to like Easter mass and stuff. Um, and then we moved back from Albuquerque to Lubbock, which like it's not a bad thing. It is the Bible Belt. We do have a lot of churches here, and a lot of different beliefs in that in here in Amarillo. But I moved to Lubbock, and I started getting to the Southern Baptist type church. Um, and there was a big foundation, and it kind of, I had so many things happen to me as a kid, really not great things, growing up in Albuquerque, um, that I experienced that a lot of these kids didn't experience. And they were very sheltered, I felt like. Um, and it was hard for me to kind of see that. That was kind of my cave. Like I was like in a weird transition. Like, should I get out of this cave? Should I stay? Like, what do I do? And I had all this guilt, as a kid, because like so many people around me was like, you got to go to church, you got to do this, you got to believe this way, like, and it was so like hindering to me. I felt like, especially with my gifts and my powers, that I mean, I call them powers. I'm a superhero,
Nothing.
but all the things that I had, I felt like I suppressed it because of that. Um, and then I moved to Amarillo, and I grew up, I graduated, and I was like, okay, like I'm ready to be off on my own. So I had all these experiences on my own, and I did not really go to church very much. Um, and then I met my husband, and I was like enamored by him. I'm still obsessed with him. My husband has so many cool ideas. Like his family is like split, right? So they divorced whenever I actually met them. So I think they were like 33 years in split. Um, and his parents, his dad believes one way, and he's actually the one that led me to Justin. Um, and his mom believes the other. She's very into church. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with church because I want to be politically correct. Because I don't want to say there's anything wrong with going to church. I think you learn a
Mhm.
lot from going to church. But anytime I went to church, this is the way I felt. I just felt like I was always being suppressed or that I couldn't be my true self. Or when I asked for help or guidance, I felt like I got a lot of like, you're crazy feeling,
Mhm.
or that you can't feel that way. That's not the right way to feel. And that kind
Right.
of like hurt me. So my mother-in-law, she's very into, religion and God and being Christian. And I'm not saying that I'm not, because I am a Christian in my own way. I'm just
Mhm.
not a churchgoer. So that's just kind of how I am. But that's kind of how me and my husband got together. And we talked
Mhm.
through a lot of things and a lot of ideas. And it was really cool seeing somebody else's perspectives because I've never really met anyone else that was like, no, like, there's spirits out there and there's
Mhm.
like, and he wasn't talking even the spirits that I talk to. He's talking about like the divine. He's talking about like, I don't know, like seeing like us as God, like we are God, and instead of seeing like God is looking down on you, like we are him.
Mhm.
Um, and it was just kind of an eye-opening experience. That's when I kind of started climbing out of the cave, I feel like. So,
Mhm.
and then I met one of his friends, kind of a backstory on this one. He is like a father figure to Mason, and his name is Mark. Mark ended up passing away, unfortunately, due to cancer. And it was really sad because Mason, my husband, had been really involved in their family over all the years because their son, when he was age 15, was best friends with them and he passed away. So he kind of filled this role for that family as like a step in, kind of brother, not really, but maybe son to Mark a little bit. And so they had a really good connection. Well, when Mark passed, their family went out of town, his wife and things went out of town, and she asked us to watch the house. And I went and watched. And this was like the scariest experience that I've ever had with a spirit, I guess.
Mhm.
Very eye opening. It wasn't really scary. It was just at the time it was because I didn't know what was happening. But I was on the phone with my friend and I was sitting there on this couch and all of a sudden Mark just shows up behind me. And I'm very like, what do you call it? Clear, it's the audio. Like I can hear
Your audience.
clear, yes, clear audio.
Mhm.
Um,
So
I
is
don't
my
really see
husband.
things very often. And I can hear them like to the T. I can hear everything that's going on. Um, but when I saw a figure show up in my video and I was looking at my phone, I saw something show up behind me and I was like, what's going on? And I was like, do you see that?
Mhm.
And my friend saw it. She's like, yeah, I see something in there. I was like, oh, okay, so I'm not crazy. And I like turn around and I see Mark and he's standing in this cowboy hat dressed to like the nines. And he's
Mhm.
like standing in the living room trying to like have a conversation with me. And I was just like, I freaked out. I like jumped out of my skin. I was like, nope, this is not happening. Like, I'm crazy. Um, and I ran out and I biked myself over to my house, which we live in Canyon, so it's a small community.
Mhm.
Um, Told my husband about it. My husband's like, that's crazy because Mark's that's his favorite place in the house was the living room. And I was like,
Mhm.
really? And he's like, yeah. And the way that I described him and how he dressed, he's like, yeah, that was his favorite like gear, that his hat and all of his things. And I was like,
Mhm.
so yeah, that was like I guess my first experience with a
Yeah, there's
spirit.
a term for that, and I'll try and find it and put it on the screen somewhere. But like basically, where you like touch those objects and go down where people have been before and like you catch a residue of that person, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was insane.
Uh um that's really cool. So going back to like the you are God thing, can I hear a little more about that? Because I have like a similar way
Yeah.
of feeling. I want to see how similar it is.
So I'm still in the learning phases of things. I think that,
Oh, I mean,
I think I'll,
we're not gonna know the whole of it until we're going, because
yeah,
then that's when we know the secret.
yeah, exactly. Like even now, there's so much potential that I know is right there, like at my reach, but I
Hmm.
haven't quite unlocked it yet. Um, so I do feel like God and his presence around me. Like I really do. And I feel like I have his strength. Like I am his child, but I'm also very like I am God. Like I have these gifts for a reason. And I can do the things that, that it's incredible. I have all these like things that he's given me, but I know that I'm him at the same time. Like it's like interchangeable. It's not like, oh, he's, this like thing up
No,
there.
literally when you
It's
said that,
not. He's
because it was
around us
just like,
everywhere.
yeah, like the aspect of like a dude always being around. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
like that didn't make
Somebody
sense to
just
me.
dropped like a giant like schlong on my shoulder, and I was like, "Stop it!" My guides are hilarious, and I give them credit for like 90% of my humor.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, I totally get it. I have this theory actually. I just emailed another podcast about going on and
Hmm.
talking about it, because if not like talking about it to them, but like, a little,
Yeah.
yeah, like maybe just FaceTiming, not being that serious, you know. But
Hmm.
I have this paper that I wrote because one day I got a visual of like the flower of life, and then it like
Hmm.
went into like 3D mode, and then it burst into like eons of like time and space and like everything, and it's basically like this giant grid that we all move through, kind of like
Yeah.
video game characters move through the digitizers on the screen.
Hmm.
And it's just like that sparks like a whole thing for me to like write everything down. And it's like whenever we experience those residual energy,
Yeah.
it kind of, you're going through these particles, like my hand is going from here to here, and each one of those particles has had me inside of it basically,
Hmm.
and it leaves like a residue, so that whenever we go in and we do cleansing and we pull it's like stripping all of those little cells, or not
Yeah.
cells, but like atoms and stuff,
Particles.
like, oh yeah, particles, and we push them out so that we can re-invite divine into that space, so that everything
Yeah.
is like the greatest potential of like creativity and like
Yeah.
whatnot. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
and that's
and
why, like,
so
I didn't understand what grounding yourself was, but that's what it is. You're clearing all that out, all that gunk and all the things, so that
mhm,
that divine energy can come into you, and it can actually like give you what you need out of it.
exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, but I
So
love
the
that.
way
I love
that
that saying. It's so like we are God. Like we are him. Like it's
mhm.
not he's like looking at us from above. It's he's literally everywhere. He's in our everything. Like
Right. So the
yeah.
vibration of like absolute love is like, so the way that the vibration is of like absolute love, like not absolute, what's the word I'm trying to think of? It's like authentic love.
Hmm.
I feel like if that was put into a vibration, it would show up something similar to the flower of life. And I
Hmm.
feel like the greatest gift that God could give us, kind of thing, is like that vibration, so that we can move through this. And I also have another like theory of
Hmm.
but the aspect of like the consciousness that we are is the divine masculine, and the material world, all of the
Hmm.
stuff and everything, is the feminine. So the
Yep.
material. So it's like our feminine bodies can produce this physical thing, and the male aspect gives consciousness, you
Yeah.
know? And so I'm just like, how does that play into it? Like, I love talking about it because it's like every time I
That's
get
so
like a little
cool.
piece to like, like add to it. Like everybody has like a little piece of this puzzle, and it's like connects us in a way where I don't know. Anyway.
No, I think that's so insightful. Like, and that's why I want to learn so much more is because I don't have all the
Same.
answers. The more I listen to what other people think, and that's why I don't think church is a bad thing. Like, I think that
Mhm.
it's good to hear what they have to say. Um, but that doesn't mean I have to go all the time, you know? But, like just
Right.
hearing what you say, like I think that's really cool and I want to learn. And like you said, I take a little piece of what you said and I pull that into like what I'm thinking. I've taken pieces for my husband and, my father-in-law and my mom and everyone that's around me, and how they believe. Even the people that I work with, I see them more than my own family. Like I want to listen to what they have to say and how they're feeling about things because it's important. I mean, that's how you collect your thoughts.
Right. Well, it's like being heard. I have to be careful with stuff like that because I will literally like be like, I'm gonna do this, this, and this. And
Mhm.
then I'm like, did it, told somebody about it, it's basically done.
Mhm.
And then I don't do it. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I have to really be conscious of like my saying because it's like making a list, like that's half the
Mhm.
battle. And
I
saying those
mean, you
things
see
out
this whiteboard
loud.
behind me? That's all of like that's it.
Bam.
Yes.
I have
You
like three or
understand.
four over here. No, I love it. I love using whiteboards. It's just like not that serious. You make a little list, you can scratch
Mhm.
things off, and my daughter's
Mhm.
like, wow, what is that? And like we'll literally take
The
off some of
reason
the
why we've hung
letters.
ours so high. So,
Moving on to our next subject, I want to know what the sun was for you. What was so disorienting about discovering? Like, I imagine that it was a little bit like magical and kind of like intoxicating because you met your honey and like you're like,
mhm.
wow, like other people think like this, like you think like this,
Mhm.
and you're cute. Oh my gosh.
Like this is cool. Like thanks. Um
Yeah.
man, the sun for me I think it was when my sister-in-law passed away. That was disorienting, but it was also like enlightening. And she guided me through so many things that I didn't even know I could experience. And being on the spiritual side, and being she came in and she had lots of conversations with me. Um, like I said, I'm very clairaudient.
Mhm.
Um, and I can I have conversations with her all the time. And for a long time, I couldn't differentiate like my conscience from hers or other people's. But now, like now that I've gone through some of the classes,
It's a very
it is.
fine
Yes.
line.
Yes. But now that like it's kind of furthered for me and I'm further in my gifts and I've gotten a little bit of knowledge on how to do that and like how to, remove yourself from yourself and like listening to others. Um, I think that was just like, oh man, it was just so enlightening to me. Like, I was like, wow, like I was scared, of course, in the moment. Now that I'm looking back on it, I'm like, that's so, um, um, and there's a difference between astral projection dreams. I guess they're not really dreams, they're just astral projections
Mhm.
and having like full on, like,
Experiences.
yes, yes. And actually having just regular dreams. Typically, I
Mhm.
know that like if I'm having a regular dream, I usually don't remember it. Like I know I had a dream, I know it was a lot. Like I dream pretty vividly, but I don't always remember it. So I know that that's just a dream. Astral projection is totally different. Like I can feel the wind in my face. Like even thinking about it now, like I remember every detail of
Mhm.
it. Like I remember the wind in my face, the flowers falling off the tree, like all kinds of things. And she led me to her sanctuary, like where she wants to meet people. Um, and it was so weird. It was so crazy because when I astral projected to her, and she's guiding me through this, and this is the first time I've ever experienced this. Like I'm full on like kind of like panicking a little bit whenever like I woke up. I was like, what was that?
Mhm.
um, but we went to this mountain scene, and I don't know if you ever seen The Sound of Music?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like a lot of people have. Well, and here's the deal. Her and I were not super, super close. Like, I didn't know details about her like I probably should have. Now I know a lot about her because of the connection that
Mhm.
we have. But she led me to this place, and it was like Sound of Music kind of mountains where you could see the grass blowing in the wind, and it was like hills everywhere. It was just beautiful. Like, when you're singing and it's just, so that was her place. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay, cool. So then we had all these conversations, and after we got done, she gave me a big hug, and she's like, okay, now you need to go back. And I'm like, okay. So, I wake up, and I immediately wrote every sentence and every conversation that we had down. Because she had messages for everybody. She had messages for my mother-in-law, for my husband, like all these things that she needed to get out. She died so young, like, and so tragically, like she wasn't able to just tell them things that she needed to tell them. Um, and I was explaining this to my husband, and he started freaking out a little bit because he was just like, you guys went where? And like I was explaining the scene to him, and he's like, do you understand that as a kid, that was her absolute favorite movie in the whole entire world? Like, she loved Sound of Music. She loved Germany. She
Oh.
married a German. She went there. Like, that was her place. And I was like,
Mm.
I didn't know that, you know? So that was kind of my son. That was kind of my enlightening moment. It was disorienting, but it was also like, oh my gosh, this is furthering me. Like, this is happening. And luckily I had Justin to kind of help me get through it, because I was like, what the hell is happening? Like, I don't know what that was. He was like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. Like, it's just you doing astral projection, but you got to be careful because you really can hurt yourself and all these things.
Mhm.
Like, he was like guiding me through it. And the more that time has like gone by, she doesn't do that very much with me anymore. Because I mean, we've had our connections and the things we need, and she's also in different stages of her spiritual journey, which that we call it transitioning. Um,
Mhm.
and so she's not meeting with me as much, but from like the beginning. But yeah, that's kind of my spiritual enlightenment, I guess.
Mm.
My son. It's okay.
Sorry. Um, wow. That was a that's I have like a
It's a lot.
similar like it's like a lot of images. So like
Yeah.
my processor sometimes is just like kind of lags a little
No, I'm
because
the same way.
um like I understand it internally, but like putting things into words and
It's
like
so
I
hard.
have to like rewind the tape to be like, where did I have that question? Because I had a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
um so the aspect of like it's crazy because when I had my daughter, that's when everything popped off for me. And so
Yeah.
it's crazy whenever it's around like those huge like instances that happen in our life. But I don't remember
And
what the
I don't
question.
think I into that. Like, Kimberly, my sister-in-law, she got
Hmm.
hit by a drunk driver when I was due. Like, I was 2 weeks away from my due date with my first kiddo, my daughter. And I think I mean, Justin did talk to me about that too, talking about like how you have big moments in your life like that happen. And I had a tragedy, and I also had like this amazing experience having my kid for the first time. And let me tell you, I'm sure you kind of felt it, but as women, there's a transition period for you when you're having your kid that like everything goes quiet. It's just you, and it's just this child that you're literally putting into this world. And it's something I can never explain. But yeah, I think things popped off at that point too, because right after that, like, I started having those vivid astral projection dreams with her, and even my daughter has been in some of my dreams because apparently she's a starseed. And I don't know, has I was like, what is a starseed, Justin? And he's like, oh, let me tell you all about it.
I
But
know.
her
And
and
then
my
he
son
gets
are
all
both
in his
starseeds.
mode, and you're just like, wow, keep talking.
Yes, and it's so exciting because And I
Hmm.
put him on a pedestal only and I don't mean to, but like he has all these like cool answers because he's done so much research and so many years of wisdom and
Hmm.
experience that he has that I'm like, and not just him, but there's like Karen and there's so many others that like I pull pieces from in our little community that I'm like,
Hmm.
wow, y'all know what I got you.
I know we're all like working on like to get like we're up at Healing Hands, we're all working together to like make sure our clients get what they need and like have
Hmm.
access to like all of us because we
Hmm.
all do different things. Like we're all for the different aspects and um of the personality, but that's really exciting. Um
Yeah.
so speaking of exciting, um I want to ask you about like the exploration aspect. Like it sounds like astral projection is like a high one, but like what was your favorite thing like to explore learning that you are this and you
Hmm.
that it's okay that you are this.
Yeah. I would have to say, oh, that's a hard one. That's a really hard question. Um, I mean, I do really enjoy astral projection. It doesn't happen as often as I want it to. But I'm also kind of scared to tap into it more because I know there's so much to it. Um, so that one is fun. But I think my favorite part of finding my gifts and who I am is finding out that I'm more of a death reader. So, and I'm very good with
Mhm.
spirit guides. Because your spirit guides have so many things to like give you, and a lot of people don't know how to tap into that like connection. And I think it's really important for you to be able to tap into that connection because when you're having really bad anxiety or like all these things going on and you're not connecting with them, you can't calm yourself down. And it's a form of grounding. And I felt like with me, with my horrible childhood experience, and
Mhm.
all the things that had happened to me, I feel like being able to tap into that and being able to like figure out how to ground myself and like, I don't know, maybe like emerge as a new person. I think that was so enlightening to me. Like it was
Very
oh,
Phoenix.
so cool. And then also knowing how to like actually tap into having conversations with spirits and being like, oh, they said this. And then having these confirmations from these people when you're greeting to them, like, wait, what did you
Mhm.
just say?
Love, yeah,
Like,
love the confirmations.
I love it. I mean, you're not always going to get it. And there are going to be some people that are just totally not about that. And they're like, no thanks. Okay, cool. But I've had some like life altering conversations with people that,
Mhm.
and I'm not that type of person. I'm not going to tell you to go do this, this, and this. Like, as a person, like
Mhm.
as a human being, I would never tell somebody, well, here's what your spirit guides are telling you to do. You know, like I always felt uncomfortable with that. Like I would never do that to anybody, but your spirit guides know what you need and they know you. And I've had, in one instance, I had a conversation with somebody that I was literally telling them about, their person, their partner that they were with. And it was so uncomfortable for me to have this conversation. But I was like, your spirit guides are saying like this is not it for you. Like you need to like bow out, like
Mhm.
all these things. And I was bringing all this stuff to light. And that's so uncomfortable for me. I don't want to have that kind of conversation
Mhm.
with somebody, but at the same time, like it needed to come out because confirmation, months down the road, he was like, let me tell you, I really needed to get out of that because now I can do this, this, and this, and this. And I was like, okay, like, cool.
Yeah. I know I'll be like doing a reading or something and I'm like,
Should I say that?
yeah, it gets really awkward sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it makes you
Um,
uncomfortable. Like you're having these uncomfortable conversations with people, and you know that this is like very internal. Like they are not
no,
talking about this
legit.
without anyone else.
But I was wondering about like the feelings of like self-doubt and stuff like that. Going in and being like, man, I'm telling this girl
Mm-hmm.
that she needs to not be with this guy. What if she leaves him and it's actually like the love of her life? But like, you learn to trust. You learn to
Yeah,
trust what
you
people are
have to.
telling you. Like, I think that's what I admire about Justin in that aspect.
Yeah,
And because we
he's
were
so
talking about that,
confident.
it's like the confident, but it's built. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it goes like, I don't know. Anyway.
he's built
literally
that
struck
connection
into
with
him.
his guides, and to be able to like trust himself because he's had years of experience in that end
Mhm.
is kind of how I feel like, and he's been very clear, like the more you use your gifts, the more you'll feel confident in yourself.
That
And the less you use your gifts, the less you'll feel confident in yourself. And I'm like, makes sense. And when I do, I do have these like conversations with people, and I do self doubt like all the time. I'm like,
same.
should I say that? Do I need to say that? And then they'll yell at me, and I can hear them yelling at me. My spirit guide's like, yes, say
Mhm.
it. And I'm like, okay, so just letting you know, I am not comfortable saying this, but I have to, is what they're telling me.
Out of like the
Um,
5 years of me doing this, I've only had one person be like,
oh,
so I think
I've
that's
had
pretty
a
good. I
lot
think that's a good
actually.
ratio.
I mean, I don't know. I've had like a half and half probably. Half of the people that I've talked to, they're really down. They really needed that, conversation. The other half, even the other day, I gave a message to someone. Man, this lady was screaming in my ear. Like I could not get her away from me. And it was so frustrating. And it didn't matter what I did. I had my spirit guides trying to block her out. She would not stop. And so I came to my coworker and I was telling her, I was like, hey, I have a message for you. This is really uncomfortable. I don't like doing this, especially in like a work setting because it's, you got to be professional.
Mhm.
But if you're ready to hear this message, let me know. So then we're on our own and she's like, let me hear it. And it's from this girl or this woman in her life that like really hurt her, like really hurt her. Um,
Mhm.
and it was a conversation I don't know if she was ready to have. And I that's where I struggle. I feel like is when I have conversations or I bring it up to someone and I tell them like, "Hey, this is a person that's wanting to talk to you," and they're not ready to hear it. And I still give them that
Mhm.
conversation, they're not ready to receive that message. And I have a hard time differentiating that, like, because I want to just tell everybody everyone's stuff, right? But I'm learning even from that situation not to do that. Like, let them come to you and let them have that conversation with you. Give them like an opportunity to be like, hey, there is a message for you, but just when you're ready and sit on that for a little bit. And
Right, give
then,
them a card. Be like, here,
yeah,
if you're ready to hear this in a place where you're not, like, I
then
totally
you do it.
understand. Yeah.
So that's where I self doubt a little bit is whenever I'm like, should I have this conversation with somebody or should I not? Like, I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah. No, yeah, I totally get it because it is. So, so I want to ask also about returning to the cave. Did you experience any ostracization from like family members and like other people who like attended the churches that you went to?
Yeah, I've actually lost several friends that are very into church because I didn't go and do that anymore with them. Um and my family is a hard one because when I first started this journey and I was pregnant with, my first kiddo and I was going through all of like the opening and all the things of coming out of the cave and the enlightening stuff. Um my family was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like my sister is she's a medium for sure.
Mhm.
She is very suppressed though with hers. I feel like and maybe it's a little bit of like I don't know. She's very involved in her church group and that has been her sanctuary because she's had a lot of bad things happen to her recently. And I'm happy for her. Like I don't want her to feel bad that I don't want her to feel like she can't go to church or do the things or have the people or the community that she has because they've been great for her. Um, but I think it has kind of like pulled us apart a little bit. Um, like we don't see eye to eye on a lot of same things anymore. Because she has a certain way of thinking about things, and so do I now. So it's hard for us to connect in that area. Plus, it's scary for her, I think, a little bit to hear some of my stories whenever I feel like she kind of can relate to them, but she doesn't want to relate to them, if that makes sense.
Mhm. No, yeah.
And my mom is not about it at all. So I can't have a conversation with her about things like this. And it does it saddens me. Like I feel like there's a whole part of me that I can't like open up to and have like a full conversation with her and be really honest with her because I talk to her every day, you know? And there's a whole part of me that's like not there. Like, and she doesn't get that sometimes, you know, when I'm going through a hard time or when I've got things going on, she's like, you got to find something for yourself. And I'm like, but really, I do have things for myself. I know how to ground myself now. I can talk to people. But I don't
Yeah.
know. I think and she did mention at one point, she's like, I don't know. It seems a little cultish to me. And I was like, it's not, I promise. Like, it really hurt my feelings. Like, so yeah,
No,
I
I
was definitely
totally made a
ostracized.
joke about like all of us shaving our heads. I was like, if Justin makes us try and shave our heads, then you can call it a cult.
Yes. Yes.
I'm just gonna show up in a bald cap one of these episodes.
You should. You should. Be like, all right, Justin made us do it. Like, we're drinking the Kool-Aid. No, just kidding.
Wearing the necklaces, like
Yes.
all in it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Just
No,
a
and it's
picture
not like that
of
at
him here
all.
instead
Like,
of Moss.
you should. You should. And like, no, but what he
No,
does is he helps us through all of these like experiences that we're having. And like, it's very
building
individual, but it's
community.
also, yes, and we're building a community just like you would at church. And of like-minded like things that are happening because not everybody has these, you know, skill sets. Not, I mean, I feel like here, let me reverse that. I feel like
I know
everybody has
exactly what you're gonna
potential.
say, and I agree.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I feel like everybody has the potential and they have a gift inside them. It's just if they're willing to open to that or not. I feel like there's so many people out there that have these experiences and that they can't explain it, but they're like, no thanks. Like, I'm not doing that. I'll stay back in my cave. And it's like, okay, I mean, that's fine. Like, it's your prerogative. It's what you want to do. But for me, I know that whenever I open up my gifts, I feel a lot better.
Yeah,
So,
me too. I feel totally connected, and
mhm.
like everything is happening exact. There's this like gratitude that I feel. I was talking to my friend Michelle the other day, and we
Yes.
send like voice notes. I love her because she'll like match me. She's like, "Oh, we're sending voice notes now. Cool. Oh, we're just
Okay, I
texting
got you.
now. Awesome." Yeah. And so I was talking to her and I was just saying how I feel so grateful all the time
Hmm.
about everything, even the stuff, like even the
Yeah.
the bad childhood stuff that I've also gone through, and
Yes.
like the bad decisions that I've made, learning from them and going forward. Like there's nothing like with the
Yeah.
whole like I also have like strained relationships, and because not because I'm a medium anymore, but it's like for other reasons that like I don't want to
Hmm.
get into yet. I'm saving that interview for Tyler the Creator. If you ever want to come on, you just email me, baby.
He, he's pretty cool.
Because I want to talk about your last album. But no, I experienced the like feeling of like I can't be my full self around these people kind of thing.
Hmm.
And like as far as my medium stuff goes, I'm like, this is what you get. This is all I'm talking about. You want me to be
Yeah.
excited and having a good time? Let's talk about some ghosty woasties.
Yes. And I get so excited about it, but there's so many people around me in the community that's just like scared to like have those conversations. And I'm like, that's fine. Like, again, it's
Aw.
your prerogative. I've tried to do that and it does not work. Like, here,
You
let
have
me have.
it's a very by person kind of thing. You have to figure
Yeah.
out how they're comfortable talking about
Yep.
it. I feel like with me growing up with undiagnosed autism, it's like I learned how to fit in so good. It has become a superpower for me. So even stuff like
Yes.
that, like some people are like, nobody paid attention to me and blah blah blah, and like I've seen that, but like I don't really get it because I think that everything happened the way that it was supposed to, and I think that I
Yeah.
am the person because of it.
Because of
And
those
yeah, like
experiences.
yeah, and sometimes with the ADHD, I wish I could stay a little more on task, but we're working on the hormones and we're getting that taken care
Yep.
of.
Dude, okay, stop. Let's talk a little bit more about that because what I'm curious
Mm.
about is when like learning about all the people that I've kind of come in contact with when they're like in their gifts, like our community, right? I've found that we kind of are self-diagnosed on a lot of things. Like for me, like you're talking about your self-diagnosis, and like I know that I have ADHD. I know I do. And I have been diagnosed with dyslexia, which I know that it's something different. I always feel like I'm so off from the normal society. Like even just being at work and being with normal people, they have these conversations, and I just feel like I'm so stupid. And I know I'm not stupid. Like I just can't
You're
connect with you the
literally
way.
just on another frequency. Okay, imagine you
Yeah.
have like your high frequency and then you
Mhm.
have your low frequency. This is the
Mhm.
cave.
Mhm.
This is the out of the cave.
Mhm.
like,
And they're
like,
like, maybe down here, maybe you're up here, but then sometimes they're up here and you're down here. I just never connect.
hmm
Yeah.
yeah, but then whenever we do make those connections, they're so beautiful. It's just
Yeah.
like, have you ever just like been standing on top of a mountain in your emotions and you're just like, oh my gosh, that was so worth that trip. I'm so glad that
Yeah.
I like cried, vomited on the way up here because it's making it so much better.
Yeah.
And so like you're just like, oh man, like I gotta go back down. But like standing up there, it makes it so worth the trials and
Mhm.
tribulations and the misconnections and like the wanting to connect with other people and like not really being able to kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah. I
Because
feel like
like
for
you
me
just you
that's the
can't.
most exciting part.
It is to me too. Like, but then knowing what I know now, because back in the day I didn't understand it. Like in high school, I never really could connect with people because they were always on such a different frequency than me. Like, and again, I always just felt like I was just this dumb kid that like didn't
Mhm.
know how to do what everyone else was doing. And I was never normal. And people would say that to me, like, oh, you're so annoying and so blah, 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 and all these things, right? But then now that I've like have this community of like-minded people that understand like what like my gifts are and all the things that are in my head, and that can kind of help me like sort through that, it's a lot easier for me to process when I'm in that moment and I'm like, ooh, I'm having that moment. I don't feel good about this. Like we're not connecting. I feel insecure, like insecure and inferior to this. But then I can get with my spirit guides and I can like connect with them. They're like, no, no, it's just because you guys are on a different frequency. Like
No,
it's
literally.
okay. And then you're like, oh, okay, I'm good. Like I'm grounding myself now. Like it's just
Oh my
different.
gosh. I have like such a similar thing. It ended up
Mhm.
being like I was at this event and I looked at this girl and she's taking pictures and I was like, man, I want to take pictures. So I'm like, sitting there also trying to take
Mhm.
pictures, but I like never wear makeup and like all my smile lines was like creased and like you could just see it in
Me
the
too.
picture. It was the most unflattering thing ever. And I was just like, ew. Well, I could feel myself like I want to go where she's at, but I was like, oh, but I don't want to copy her. And like, so like I'm looking at them and they're getting up and I feel like these tubes coming out of my eyes. And what this is for me, this feeling is like
Mhm.
awful. And I was like, why am I doing that? Like,
Mhm.
like dissolve back to over here. What are you doing? Let me internally like scan. Is this a me thing? Am I jealous? Like, what's the problem? And I couldn't find like a thing because like this person is so beautiful and they're just like, in this amazing makeup. And if they're okay with it, I'll like insert a photo because I got the best photo of them. But anyway, um, I'm like sitting there and I'm like, and so I go and scan over her and I see a mist. I see a mist
Mm.
around her and I'm like, oh, like this is generational. Okay, so what is it? And I'm sitting there and I'm staring off and one of my friends who's also in our group is like, quit feeling insecure already. And I'm like, get out of my head. Get out of my head, sir. I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from. Hold on. But like, I felt like, oh, maybe like the only thing that I really feel that I'm feeling is that like the picture that I took, I didn't like it because I
Mhm.
I looked aged and the age thing has never bothered me, but like now that my face
Yeah.
is kind of changing, I'm like, oh, like I'm gonna be 30 this year. But anyway, so like I sat there and I was thinking about it and I was finding it and I was like, oh, this is generational going upon like this half of her family. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's not me.
Yeah. Start talking to you a little bit about yesterday's experience, but we'll just keep going, keep going.
Okay. So, what is the most exciting part of this for you? Is it like, what is that?
Oh, that's there's just so many. I think it's for me, it's connection. I think that's huge. Like, talking about all the experiences that we've had, like for me specifically, I know I've had such a hard time connecting with people because I am so different and I do have so many different gifts and different things to offer. And people are just not on the same level, or I didn't find for a while the people that are on the same level. So it's nice to have the community to be able to feel comfortable in my own skin, um, and to feel like I'm not insane, like I'm not, you know, this
Mhm.
like random person that's just by themselves being ostracized all the time. Like,
Mhm.
you
No,
know,
me at the bar, I'd like go take my sketchbook and I'd just sit in the corner and wait for somebody to be intrigued by
such a
me
people
and my
person. Yes.
mysteriousness, and I'm just like,
Yes. And then you're like, you don't even care if people are looking at you like weird because you're just like, I'm in my own, I got my own frequency. I'm confident in myself
Mhm.
now. Don't worry. I got my friends around me. And even though you
Got my
can't see them,
own
but they're
drink,
here.
like, yeah.
Yeah. And
We're here
like,
for the
oh,
show.
I love it. Well, okay. So what I'm curious about is how, because I know you have a kiddo yourself,
Mhm.
and I have two kiddos myself. And my thing is, I have such a hard time knowing that they're star seeds. They have gifts themselves.
Mhm.
How do I help, like coordinate these gifts? And because my daughter will sit there and tell me like, there's someone scary in the corner. And I'm like,
No,
oh,
literally.
okay.
I've had the same
Yeah.
happen.
And I'm like, well, okay, we have to ground ourselves and we've got to tell him, like, you know, be gone, evil spirits, and all of the things, like
Yeah.
the whole preaching and all that stuff. So, but yeah, what
Mhm.
I'm curious is like how you're finding out how to like manage that with your kiddo.
I go to therapy. I know that sounds
Yes.
like,
No.
but if I am taking care of myself, and I'm a very snappy person, and I'm about to have a therapy session with my therapist, like shout out to her because
Mm,
like I'm a mess with this one because it
mm-hmm.
affects like this giant portion of my life that like I've
Yeah.
tiptoed around, and I don't want to do that anymore because I feel like it underlyingly makes me very irritable. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I have to like tiptoe around this thing and I'm just like bah, bah, bah. Like I'm like I pop off really easily, like I get auditorily overstimulated, and
Yeah.
I feel like it makes me unpleasant to be around.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be unpleasant for my kid and my husband. Like I love
Yeah.
them and they make my life so beautiful. I'm not gonna cry.
I
But
love this.
she's literally like we moved into this house and where there's this addition in here, and this is conveniently where my office is, and like arguably the most haunted room of the house. But
You're like,
like
it needs some work.
she was standing over there at the door looking in here. She's like, "Mom, there's a guy in there." And I was
Mm.
like, "Here's the singing bowl. Go hit it."
Yep.
I'm like, anytime you see anything, you grab one of these bells, you grab that singing bowl, and you start banging, and you tell me, and we're gonna figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But like for like I haven't had like a whole lot of things. Like she's really good at predicting what people are having as far as babies go.
Oh, so am
And
I.
like she's 100%. Yeah, me too. Me too. Usually I can tell by like where the belly's sitting, honestly. It's like more of an
Mm-hmm.
observation
I
thing,
see their
but
souls. Like they come out and they talk to me.
oh really?
Hmm.
Oh, I haven't had that happen yet. Um but like yeah, I go to therapy and I figure my stuff out because when
I
I'm
love
okay,
that.
my abilities grow and I
Hmm.
can understand what I'm doing more. Like you were talking about something earlier, like um oh dang, I can't remember what it was. But you were talking about something and I was like, you literally just have to like do X, Y, and Z. If I remember, I'll
Hmm.
tell you. But or I'll watch over it and I'll message
Yeah, and
you
you'll
and
be
be
like,
like,
oh
this is
yeah,
what
I
I
remember.
But like I want to be able to do that for her and be like, "Mom, I don't, my head hurts and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Okay, come here and let's ground," because she holds so much energy in her little body. She's like a
Hmm.
little Aries and she's all fiery, and I'm just like, "Girl,
Hmm.
like come here." And so like I push everything, and I taught her the other day how to like
Yeah.
do the sun and like bring it down, and she was all Like she was all
What?
like, kind of breathing. Like her little
Just
eyes
like
were
she could
just
see
going
it.
crazy. She could like feel it tingling and stuff. And I was like, okay. And so she got stuck here and I was like, come here, let me help you. And so I helped her push it the rest of the way down. And she was all
Hmm.
wiggling her little fingers like
Hmm.
and it's really rewarding. Like I love helping
Hmm.
people do that. And whenever I get to help my
Hmm.
family do that, like my family's
Yeah.
very like understanding of what I do. My uncle was like, why do you do that? And I was like, well, somebody has to.
Yeah. Well, and ultimately, at the end of the day, it's helping. It's okay. So it's like a form of therapy for you. Like to me,
Mm-hmm.
somebody asked me the other day, they're like, why do you read? Like, because I was doing a tarot card for a coworker, and man, she needed that big time because her boyfriend just broke up with her and she was like really
I
depressed.
just got one this morning.
And I was like, okay, cool. Like, and they were like, well, why do you do that? And I'm like, well, think about it. Like, cause they're like, I just don't see like the point in it. And I was like, okay, do you go to therapy? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, it's just a conversation. That's literally what it is. Like, it's just a little more insight in like what's going on in your like aura and your field and what's going on in your mind. And your spirit guides, like I just have a little more insight than a normal therapist probably would. But your therapy appointments, when you go to talk to them, you're literally having the same kind of conversations and they're leading you into these like paths and helping you. And that's basically what this is. Like having a reading is helping you and it's therapy for you. It's helping you like coat your anxiety and have different ways to cope with it. And that's kind of how I see it. So, and when I kind of said that to that person, they were like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But going
Mm-hmm.
back to my kiddos, like as a mom, not having anybody there to help me through this, I feel like props to us because I don't ever want my kid to feel squashed. I don't want her to feel like if she sees something in the corner that she's insane to see that. Like, I want her to figure
In
out how to
any aspect
work with it.
too, like in anything. Like I
Hmm.
want my kid to be like feral, but also polite.
Yes.
you know, like
Like,
with me, she can be however she needs to be. I'm gonna talk smack back for sure because she
yes.
has my attitude, and I'm just like, okay, and
So,
then.
so does mine.
But like, I want her to shine. I want her to be comfortable to be that. I
Hmm.
want her to like, you know, I don't know. Anyway, we'll have to talk more about that later.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so moving on to our last one because we're getting close on time.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
have you experienced anything paranormal? Do you have stories?
I do. Okay. So I'm gonna go with the first one that I will never forget for the rest of my life. And anyone that's around me, like my husband, my sister, anyone that kind of knows me, they'll know this story. But as having a bad childhood, right? Me and my sister were in a room together, and we shared a trundle bed, and there was a dresser across the room. And do you feel it? Um,
I got
so
chills.
I was laying down and my sister and we heard something and it both woke us up at the exact same time. And I was like, I don't know, 10, maybe 10. No, I was probably a little bit younger than that. I was maybe like more like 8, I think. And she's about 5, almost 6 years younger than me. And we both woke up at the same time and we look over at the same place at the same time because that's where the noise was coming from. And
Mm-hmm.
I see this like demonic looking, like 3 foot high, like scary looking thing just staring at us with beady red eyes. And it was like a round head and it's got like a weird shaped body. And I was just like, what the
Okay.
fuck is looking at me right now? And my sister and I both
Okay.
freaked out. Like, because this demon's like literally watching us. And like I'm watching it like crouch down and like look at us like with this, oh, this is creepy. So I'm screaming. My mom comes in, it turns on the light. It's not there anymore, of course. Um, and like she's like, everything's gonna be fine. It's all okay. And she's like trying to calm us both down, and we're both scared. And she's like, obviously something happened. Like she was like, well, there's black mold in the walls, so I know. Yeah, it was really bad. They didn't find that out until later, so that was her excuse.
Right,
She was
yeah.
like, it was just black mold in the walls. That's why you guys are seeing things. Not true. I know that that was her reasoning, but that was not the case Because
Mhm.
here's the deal. Me and my sister the next morning woke up. Again, she's 6 years younger than me. And I was like, I
Mhm.
had this great idea. I was like, Ashton, that's her name. I was like, Ashton, you and I need to go to separate rooms and draw what we saw. Like, let's not talk about it. Let's draw what we saw. It was almost to the T what it looked like. Both her and
Mm.
I had drawn the exact same thing. I was like, it was something. Well, looking back on it now, knowing what I know and, growing, I knew it was a demon that was attached to my sister's dad because we had
Mhm.
had so many bad experiences. And like he finally like showed himself to us and I was like, I just didn't know what it was. But now like I remember seeing him in my dreams a lot growing up and I was like, oh my gosh, that's him. So that was a paranormal experience. And I finally got rid of him whenever I learned how to like ground myself. I finally got rid of him and severed the tie with him. But then the Mark experience, seeing him like from
Mhm.
nowhere, like I was like, what? That happened, and then there's been so many weird little things with that little demon that was following me around that was attached to my sister's dad. I had a cross on my finger that was wrapped around me, and I also had a cross in my room that was hung up.
Mhm.
And there's no way that it would like I don't know what was going on, but my dog, and this is what when I was living by myself in my own apartment, my
Mhm.
dog decided that like she was at every single freaking night at the same time at like I think it was like 12 o'clock at night, she would bark in the same damn corner every
Mhm.
single night at the same time. And I didn't know what it was because this is before I like opened up and like had the community and like learned all the things. But my cross was always in the corner, and every single freaking night it would fall off the wall. And I'm like,
Mhm.
what is going on? But of course, it was
Mhm.
this little demon thing that was following me around, and I had to like get rid of it. And oh,
Mhm.
it was all these things, right? But that's the only two bad experiences, like negative experiences that I've had. The rest of them have
Mhm.
been really positive. Like, I've had a
Yeah.
lot of like experiences where I've seen my kids' souls when I was pregnant with them or like right before I was pregnant with them. They come out and they talk to me.
Mhm.
And that was an experience because I've never experienced that before. I was like, what? So I see my little daughter walking and talking in her spirit form. And it's like a mist form. I don't know how to explain it, but I've had her and I knew. I was like, I'm going to have a daughter. And I
Mhm.
had her. And then same thing with my son. I was like, hey, what's up? And he would come and he'd hang out with me and Ellie, my little girl, and we would hang out and stuff. And I would be like, cool. And I know that I'm gonna have a third kid, and it's a little boy. And he comes and like even this morning, he came and gave me and my son's sick right now, so he came and gave us a hug this morning, and I was like, can't wait for y'all's
Mhm.
bond one day. So
No,
yeah,
I remember being pregnant. I would dream about Sophia a lot. Like one time she told me she had jaundice with these big old yellow eyes while I was pregnant with her, and I was like, I mean, it makes sense.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, it
um,
does.
but um, I don't know. It was a very interesting process for me in that aspect.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway,
Did you have like a lot
but
of like paranormal experiences like leading up to and then now you can kind of feel better
so
about it?
I'll tell you one, and then I gotta probably sign off. But so I was nesting hard, like
Yeah.
moving the living room into the bedroom, living room. Like my fiance at the time and my kid's dad was like, all right, cool. So like he would do it, and then we were in there and we were asleep kind of next to the front door. That's where I decided to put the bed. I don't know. It was a small apartment.
Hmm.
But I woke up and he was having a bout of sleep paralysis. And so I look over and I see this giant thing, kind of similar to the guy from Death Note, the demon guy, like
Oh
the main
yeah.
one, and kind of like over him, looking a little different, like not exactly the same, a little more earthy looking.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hey, get off of him," because he's like,
Yeah.
like trying to wake up, you know? And I was
Yeah.
like, in my mind, I was like, hey, get off of him. And he looks at me I was like, oh, don't look at me like that. And then he looks at my belly and I was like, oh, you done messed up. And
Yeah.
this giant hand comes from inside of me and like body slams him. And
Yeah.
next to the front door, in my mind, I visualize this like two meat grinders that are grinding together kind of thing, like there. And I was like, oh, bye bye. And I like meat ground him into the door. And I like sat there concentrated until he was just like a pulp on the other
Yeah.
side of my door. And I was like,
Yeet.
yeah. And this is before like just anything. Like this is
Yeah.
pre me understanding like and all
Yeah.
that. And I also had like this air elemental who had like turned evil that was like coming around my
Yeah.
bed and I would like slash it down every single time with like an amethyst. Like I had an
Mm-hmm.
amethyst near and I was using the energy from it to like whoosh, you know, every time I hit it, it would just reanimate and reanimate and reanimate. And finally I would just get fucking tired and I'm like, I'm going to sleep.
Just done with you.
Yeah, I was like, be here, whatever. I don't give a hoot. Go. And found out later and found out how like to put it in a
How
bag
to
and
get
like
rid of
toss
it.
it. Yeah, yeah. And but no, it was a really interesting experience like going from like, party girl to mom medium.
I mean, I don't know if I was particularly like super party girl, but I definitely had my own like
I
times.
was.
And yeah.
I had a
And
good
I feel
time
like,
though.
and I was a little rebel. Like I felt like I was. I mean, not in a bad way, but like I was like, I don't
Yeah.
even care what you say to me. Like I'm gonna do what I want to do and all the
Mhm.
things. And now we're like who we are. Like I don't
Mhm.
know. They call them crunchy moms, and I'm over here like holistic and love and,
Mhm. Oh
and
no, I'm
peace
I'm
and
the witch mom for sure, and I can't wait till all her friends are scared of me, and I'm gonna be all, nah,
hmm yeah.
give me some of your hair.
Mm, yeah.
But no, I'm
Well,
just
I do
kidding.
want to
But
say before we get off, like I want to
Mhm.
say like because I know we had talked a little bit about children and like you were talking about how you grounded your children. Um, and I don't know, I just feel like it might be good for anyone to hear it because I feel like it's so important when you do have children. Um, one of the things that I've learned to help with my kids is grounding them at night, but like you teach them the crown, like you were talking about, like your crown chakra and growing all the way down to your toes and getting rid of all of it and putting it into the earth. And like we do that as a bedtime routine every night. And it's so
Mhm.
cool to hear my kids. They love it. They love it. And one
Mhm.
of the things that Justin taught me with my kids
I
was
can relate.
um, he was like, okay, make sure when you ground them, right, you also say, um, I banish thee with the white light of Christ 3 times over them. And typically that kind of diminishes like all the activity going on around them
Oh, for
because
sure.
they bring in a lot of activity themselves.
Mhm.
And then also, I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy, Benny Hine. I think that's his name. Back
It
in the
sounds
day, like
familiar.
90s, he was like one of the
Mhm.
first guys that like came out and was like talking about like, be gone, spirits. Like he would
Oh
say
yeah,
that to
yeah.
people. And so my big thing, because my kids love it, they think it's hilarious. I'll like press down on their chest and I'll go, but God, evil spirits, evil demon spirits. And like if I don't do it, she gets so upset. She's like, be gone, spirits, be gone, evil spirits. She'll say that to me, and I'm like, okay, okay, I'll do it, okay. And they like laugh and giggle every single time I do it.
She's all
And then of
begone
course
me.
she's like, be gone, yeah, like do it, make sure you do it, Mom. And I'm like, okay. But like I know doing that, like when they grow up, they're probably gonna like want to do that in front of people. And people are gonna be like,
Mhm.
what the
I'll be like,
I'm
that's
like,
right. We support each other in this house.
yeah. Which I mean, I wish I would have
No,
had that when I was a kid, but oh, and then we also do
right.
pray, of course. So we talk about
Yeah.
like good things pulling into the divine and all the good
Yeah.
things. But that's just all I wanted to mention, just in
No,
case if
I'm
anybody
right
needed
there
to hear
with
that.
you. I sometimes whenever my daughter goes to school, because the area that I live in is super populated residually, if you catch my
hmm
drift.
Yeah.
And I always tell her, I'm like, hey, do you want a shield today? And she'll be like, oh yeah. And
Yeah.
like I'll like, grab her hand while we're in the car and like I'm like, doing my shielding. I'm like, I charge her aura shielding you from the outside
hmm
in, and then I go from inside out and I charge her angels and guides and ancestors to holding it in place until she's safely home. And I say that 3 times and I'm like, are you ready? And then we'll snap. And I usually like do both of us. You know what I mean? It's like a fun thing that we do
Mm-hmm.
together. And
Good reset.
yeah, and she like, and the times that she's all worried and she's like, I'm scared. And I'm like, do you want a shield? And she's all, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay,
Let's do this,
whatever you
girl.
want.
But then it makes them feel
Yeah.
so much better, doesn't it? Like you're
Yeah, and it's
validating that
nice to
she's
be
not
able to
crazy and
feel,
you're not crazy.
yeah. It's nice to be able to make them feel safe too. It's like I'm doing my
Yes.
job in the best way that I know how. You know,
Yeah.
like this is literally like my bread and butter. Like,
Yeah. This came out
but
of me.
um well anyway, so
Yeah.
everyone, thank you so much for listening. Kelsey, I can't wait to have you back on next season
Yeah.
whenever I come up with the next line of questioning, however that's gonna look. But so I just want to take a minute to give a shout out to our upcoming partner, the Unspeakable Protocol. Next week I'm gonna be having Ruth Brown on. She's gonna be talking to us about her project and her experiences in life as well. And I also want to give a shout out to Eclectic Healing Crafts, or if you know me, EHC. That is my business that has been helping us and funding us doing this project, and we would not be here without them. But if you're interested, we have some of our art posted to help keep the creativity alive. All of our proceeds go into our next projects. And we have a bunch of goals that I will sit down and talk with you about at a later date. But I just want to say thank you so much, Kelsey, for coming on. It was amazing getting to talk to you about everything, connecting with you on what you're passionate about.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I definitely want to give a shout out to my spirit guides because Athena, like you were goddess. I appreciate all of the things that you've done. So yeah.
Yay! All right, everybody, stay spooky and join in with us next week for our next interview. Bye.